What are some famous examples of guerrilla warfare? When we think about the American Civil War, we often picture large battles with thousands of soldiers. However, there was another side to this conflict that involved smaller, more elusive tactics known as guerrilla warfare. So, what are some famous examples of guerrilla warfare during this period? One notable figure is John Singleton Mosby, who led the 43rd Battalion Virginia Cavalry, often called Mosby's Rangers. Operating in northern Virginia, his unit became famous for surprise raids against Union forces. They targeted supply lines and communication networks, often wearing Union uniforms to infiltrate enemy camps. Mosby's tactics created chaos for Union troops from 1863 to 1865, making him a feared name in the region. Another infamous example is William Quantrill and his group of guerrillas known as Quantrills Raiders. Operating in Missouri and Kansas, they were known for their brutal tactics. One of their most notorious actions was the raid on Lawrence, Kansas, in August 1863. This attack resulted in widespread destruction and civilian casualties, highlighting the violent nature of guerrilla warfare in the border states. The James brothers, Frank and Jesse, also played a part in this irregular warfare. Before they became famous outlaws, they were Confederate guerrillas in Missouri. They used deceptive tactics, such as dressing in Union uniforms to target civilians suspected of supporting the Union. Their actions reflected the lawlessness that often accompanied guerrilla warfare during this time. In the border regions, the terms bushwhackers and jayhawkers described irregular fighters. Bushwhackers were typically pro-Confederate guerrillas who launched ambushes against Union forces. On the other hand, jayhawkers were Unionist irregulars who targeted Confederate supporters. These groups often engaged in brutal local conflicts, blurring the lines between military action and civil strife. Guerrilla warfare also had a significant impact in places like Georgia and the Shenandoah Valley. In Georgia, guerrilla groups disrupted Union supply lines during General William Tecumseh Sherman's Atlanta campaign and March to the Sea. Their attacks forced Sherman to adopt harsh measures to protect his advancing armies. Similarly, in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley, Mosby's Rangers prompted Union General Philip Sheridan to conduct punitive operations against civilians suspected of aiding guerrillas. Guerrilla fighters were often locals familiar with the terrain. They relied on ambushes, sabotage, and surprise attacks rather than direct confrontations. Their tactics included destroying railroads, cutting communication lines, and raiding supply trains. This type of warfare caused significant disruption to conventional military operations, forcing Union commanders to divert resources to counter these irregular tactics. The impact of guerrilla warfare went beyond military strategy. It often led to harsh reprisals against civilian populations suspected of aiding guerrillas, resulting in widespread destruction and suffering. The blurred lines between combatants and civilians contributed to the chaotic nature of the Civil War, especially in contested border regions. In summary, famous examples of guerrilla warfare during the American Civil War include Mosby's Rangers, Quantrills Raiders, and the actions of the James brothers. These irregular fighters used unconventional tactics to harass Union forces and disrupt logistics, leaving a lasting mark on the conflict's nature and legacy.